Welcome everyone to another ACO on a Saturday morning here in October. I'd like to introduce today a friend from college through the illustration department at Merrill Institute College of Art, Kevin Sherry. Kevin's an illustrator, and I just remember one day at the library, my kids were avid readers, so they would grab piles of books, stacks of books, and being the awesome dad I was, I didn't look at any of the books until we got home when I had to start reading them. And flipping through one, I was like, "Hey, I think I know this guy." And lo and behold, it ended up being Kevin Sherry. So I just remembered him in art school as a brilliant illustrator. And to this day, I still think about one comic that he did for illustration class, and I don't remember what year it was, but it was two dinosaurs talking about how they were the greatest creatures on Earth, and they're just kind of going back and forth, and then slowly zooming out, and they're still like, "Oh, we'll live forever. We're never going to die," and slowly zooming out further and further away from the Earth, and there's a giant asteroid coming, and that was kind of the end of the comic. And I thought about the brilliance of that cartoon for so long, and was and kind of one of the reasons why I am a painter rather than an illustrator is brilliant people like Kevin and Donald from 2 weeks ago were, to me at that time period, so much further ahead of where I was as an illustrator. So I kind of chose a different path because of their brilliance, and it was for the better, let's be honest. But if you get a chance to check out some of his books, they're really phenomenal. I have a partial favorites to The Greatest Artist in the Ocean because I still say masterpiece all the time. So thank you for that, Kevin. But without further ado, we should also say that this program is sponsored by the Maryland State Arts Council. So thank you for that, Maryland State Arts Council. But without further ado, Mr. Kevin Sherry.
Hello. Thanks for being with us today. I'm here in my studio in Baltimore. I have lived in Baltimore for 23 years. I came here for MICA in the year 2000. And then now I live up in Hamilton. I got married. I live up in Hamilton. So, and yes, I'm still making children's books. And I actually just came back from 5 school visits in upstate New York, in Webster, New York. That's one of the big things I do now is go to schools, and I do their school assembly. Okay, so I do their 45-minute program where I inspire them and entertain them, and I got different big puppet heads that I put on. I play my guitar. I have a dancing marionette. Can't do that necessarily over Zoom, but I am going to do a longer, more in-depth version of kind of the same show, kind of the same slideshow that I do for them. So but this one we're going to get into more stuff.
Where I'm sorry to interrupt. Where were you in upstate New York? Because I am in upstate New York. Webster?
Yeah, to the east of Rochester.
Fantastic. I wish I had known.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. So I don't I don't tell people what schools I'm at. It's like how I don't sell books at school visits. You know what I mean? It's like cross pollination that I don't do. Let me I'm gonna do my little old show here. Okay, can you see my screen where I'm wearing this bear head and play? Okay, so when I first started doing school visits, I realized the kids are just kind of like, why should I pay attention to this person? Who cares? So now I come in, I do 2 songs, I tell bear jokes, and then they are usually right there with me. They, if I kind of get their trust in the beginning by being a little bit silly, and then a little bit shocking, and then once I take the bear head off, they're kind of more willing to listen to me. We sing a Dan Deacon song every time, which I think is great. It's a great song. This is called Wham City. I talk about my cat. There's this song when I was going to go to Tampa right after the I don't know, whatever the Governor DeSantis thing is. And also I'm a man with long hair, so without variation, I'll go into a school and a little kid will come up to me and say, "You look like a girl." And they're not trying to be insulting. Their kids just say honest things. So I talk about my cat and I say, here's a little true story about my life. This is my cat. My cat's name is Kinkos. He's a boy cat. and then we sing a song that says, "We shouldn't assume that all cats are girls and all dogs are boys." That's a song that we sing. And I started off by talking about it with my cat Kinkos here. And that's just another picture of me. Of course, this is my biggest book ever. This is my first published book. I'm the Biggest Thing in the Ocean. I graduated in 2004. This came out in 2007. I don't think, yeah. So that was very big. It got on Oprah's book club. So that was the most flush I've ever been in my entire life. I've never been more flush than I was that year. Luckily, I put it into a little row house, which, a cruise. And then this was the sequel to that. The sequel, when they signed me up for this book, it was supposed to be this book. And then the second book was supposed to be called The Perfect Dragon. And then 28 rewrites later, they actually wanted a sequel. So we did The Best Artist in the Ocean. And Jordan was talking about that one. We had to pick a masterpiece that wasn't the Mona Lisa, because it's so boring. So we chose Guernica, and we put that on the side of a giant sperm whale. And that's kind of like the special effect in the book. These are some other picture books I wrote. Scariest Thing in the Castle is a board book. Acorns Everywhere is about a squirrel. But what I say to kids is, yes, that was a picture of me, but this is also a picture of me, okay? This is a picture of me in 3rd grade, or maybe even earlier. 3rd grade is where everything changed for me. That's when I became a reader. That's when the spark got lit. For me, that was in 3rd grade. And that's why I write for that age group now, because I really believe in elementary school, just maybe the smallest thing you can say, or maybe just your actions, something that a child sees, that can change, that can grow and change the child's whole trajectory. So I really believe in elementary school. That's why I write for elementary school. The first thing I can remember and so what I talk about is all the stuff I was really into, really obsessed when I was a kid. I was really into animals, obsessed with zoo books. Turtles were my favorite animal. And I also like Ninja Turtles. Of course, I like Ninja Turtles. And I also was obsessed with comics, The Far Side. I read all The Far Side, which are kind of a really intelligent comic, very science related. I also read Peanuts, Foxtrot. I was obsessed with Garfield, which I think is nice for a child because of the repetition. But if you really go back and read Garfield as an adult, it's kind of insipid. But I really loved Garfield as a child. I read so many comics, Star Wars comics, Spider-Man. Spider-Man was my favorite comic book. Simpsons was my favorite TV show. I'm just trying to describe the person I was when I was in elementary school. And then Calvin and Hobbes was my favorite comic, maybe my favorite body of work of all time. And it was because there was so much imagination in Calvin and Hobbes. It was ridiculous. It was about imagination. It was basically a comic about imagination and philosophy that nobody knew it was about those things. So and also the guy could draw. I mean, he could draw. I loved how he made the little shoes look so cute. All these little kids' shoes look so cute, like little dinner rolls. But then he could draw the gnarliest alien as well, like this alien here. But my absolute favorite was Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl was my #1 favorite author. But before 3rd grade, I did not read novels at all. My mom would have all those giant Stephen King books, the 3-inch wide James Patterson books, those giant novels with the really scary embossed hardback covers. And I would look at those books and I would be like, I don't read those books. Those look incredibly difficult. But in 3rd grade, my teacher gave me Matilda, okay? And Matilda has pictures on nearly every page. And that's what I needed to get through my first novel. So Matilda was my first novel. And then literally later that year, I was reading Stephen King paperbacks because I realized it wasn't that difficult to read a novel. Those big, thick novels my mom had, they just looked really difficult. So another big thing happened in 3rd grade was we were supposed to write a letter to your favorite author, but I already loved drawing. In 3rd grade, I even knew I loved drawing. So instead of writing a letter to my favorite author, I wrote a letter to my favorite illustrator. at the time, who was Quentin Blake, this person who does all of Roald Dahl's books, right? So I wrote a letter to Quentin Blake. He lived in England. I don't know what I said. I was a little kid. But in third grade, Quentin Blake wrote me this letter back. And, you know, like, I know he just filled in my name and signed his name and stuff like this. But when I was in third grade, like, getting this letter sent from England, you know, to me, like, changed my life, honestly, because it proved to me that, like, authors and illustrators are real life people, you know, like they are out there, and like maybe that's something you can actually do with your life. So, and this is also like, you know, just a case of an artist or an illustrator putting in a little bit of time that like means so much to a child like me across the ocean. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of why I love going into schools and performing now, because if I can prove to kids that artists and illustrators are real life people, and you know, that's a feat. You know, I think that's what I want to do. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was also one of my favorite books, but it was not because it was cute. Usually I really like cute stuff, but this book scared me so much. I was terrified of this book. There are 3 of these books, but I probably got these books out of the library more than any other book. But, you know, as an adult, like when I graduated college and I started doing this illustration, the book illustration thing, because like Jordan said, I think like in college, I was really doing like underground comics. I thought it was going to be like R. Crumb, like Chris Ware, like kind of like a alternative comics guy. So I wasn't really thinking of children's books. But then when I did start studying children's books, I realized how important this book actually was in my development, because I went back and I read the actual words. And like, if you read the words in these Scary Stories books, they are not scary. The stories themselves are dry. They're not scary. There's scarier Goosebumps books. There are scarier, there's a lot of scarier anything else. But I thought this book was so terrifying because of these illustrations, and the illustrations made the words scarier. So basically what I'm saying, like basically what this like book is a giant example of is like the words being this one thing that could never stand alone, and then the illustrations also being this like other thing that could never really stand alone. Like those gruesome illustrations, they would put like if that was your artwork, they would just put you in the mental asylum. Like that's not anybody's artwork. But when you put them together, they elevate each other in this way that neither of them could have done alone. Okay. And even though I was reading it in third grade and understanding that, I didn't know how to articulate it. But then like when I became an illustrator, it became quite obvious that the words and the illustrations work together. So yes. And then obviously Maurice Sendak was my favorite. And he, like, what I talk about Maurice Sendak is he's absolutely cute. I love cute stuff like butters the bread, but he's also like really creepy and sort of gruesome sometimes. Okay. And that to me is also kind of necessary and is a thread that goes through the books that I've made. So like I said, in college, I wasn't really doing children's stuff, but I did love cute stuff. But I was doing like I was definitely doing comics and underground comics. I was doing a lot of cut paper stuff because I like graphic things that are easy to see and read. And this is kind of a little bit of the comic work. But what I did, the first thing I did when I graduated college is, instead of moving to Brooklyn like everybody seemed to be doing in 2004, I stayed in Baltimore and I started a screen printing business. I bought a conveyor belt press. I bought a 6-color t-shirt press. I bought all the equipment, and I started this t-shirt company. So I started selling t-shirts. All the t-shirt designs were mine. I pulled and screen printed every single shirt, every single color. We sold, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of shirts. This is one of the one of the designs. I'm going to show a lot of designs. This is a later design, kind of owl dude. This is dragon balloon with a little octopus explorer. This was one of our most popular shirts. So like before I wrote any books, we were selling like hundreds and thousands of these shirts. It was kind of just a list of cryptids, but the way the Yeti stood out, the way I drew this whole thing, and the way that I made the focal point the Yeti by using more white on that than anything else, people were obsessed with the way this Yeti looked, okay? And they would always talk about it. They would point at the Yeti, this is cute, then they would buy the shirt. So like, I kept that in the back of my mind. And these are just like what my shirts look like. They were like, told a little story, no words. You know what I mean? And then I'm drawing very, very big squid. Okay, I'm obsessed with squid. I have like squid tattoos all over myself because like in college and afterwards even, like the squid became kind of like a spirit animal for me because I did lots of different things. I was a full-time cook, like a full-time line cook, and I was a screen printer, and I was making puppets, and I was doing books, and I was doing lots of different kinds of art, like master of many, like expert of none. So that the squid was my kind of metaphor. And here's the Yeti again. It's not a book yet; it's just a shirt. So, and then I made baby shirts, onesies. This is called School of Fish. It tells a little story. These are all t-shirt designs. This is Zombies in Love. These were all, I made lunch bags, shoes. I would do custom vans. I would paint all these vans for people. I did that a lot. These ice skating penguins here. And then when you have a small business like this, you make a lot of your money by selling your stuff directly to people at like craft fairs, art markets, street festivals, all these kind of things. Craftaculars. There's one every weekend, especially in New York City. But you can go everywhere. We went to Chicago, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York all the time, DC. Different companies sponsor them. This is the way you make a lot of cash, honestly, when you have a small business that makes stuff like jewelry or pottery or anything you can make in like one warehouse. So I was selling my shirts only at this art market in Manhattan. And then like Manhattan is where all the book companies are located. So the senior editor for Penguin Books was walking around this like craftacular art market, and she saw all my shirts with the squids, my shirts with the Yetis, and she said, I love your artwork. Do you want to make a children's book? And then I said, yeah, like, of course I want to make a children's book. But I was like drawing really weird stuff at the time, like on plexiglass. Okay. So it was like, this is the kind of stuff I was drawing. I had all this like plexiglass I was drawing on. I didn't know why, but that's just what I was doing at the moment. And then I started developing this idea. It actually took 18 months because I would when she first said, like, do you want to make a children's book? I'll go into this a little more. When she first said, do you want to make a children's book? I like reread all of my Roald Dahl books. And then I made a book like that. That was sort of like a little chapter book with many illustrations. And when I was up in the office in New York City, they were like, wow, this is amazing. You've done so much. Wow, like, this is incredible. You have so much creativity. Like, we can really do something with this. We can really make this into a book. Way to go. Like, we'll call you. We're going to get this going. So I left New York, like, feeling great, feeling great. Took the train back down and then didn't hear from them. They wouldn't call me. They wouldn't answer my emails. The phone number they called me on was 215-999-9999. Like, you can't call it back. They wouldn't answer me. What can I do to make this better? What edits can we make? Nothing. So then like 6 months later, I said, instead of saying like, what did I do wrong? I said like, I have new pitches. And the same day they said, come up and pitch them. So I went, I had 3 pitches. I went up, I pitched them, and they go, we couldn't tell you last time. We don't give feedback, but you were all over the place. That one story was like 3 stories. Like, it was out of control. It was nothing we could publish. We can't tell people that, though. They said, but This time you really did it. You reined it in. You came up with some great ideas. And I think we can really publish this one called Little Devils. Oh, you think we can really publish this one? Great job. So then I was like, yes, I did it. I cracked the code. I figured it out. So once again, got on the train feeling great. Another 6 months, no contact. Wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't give me feedback, nothing. Book companies don't give feedback, because if they gave any feedback, they'd be just giving feedback all day long. You know, that I had to figure that out the hard way, though. And, you know, so I'm just like, what did I do wrong? And then not answer that. But and then, so I was like, what's going on here? So then I'm always pitching to this group of women. Like, publishing is all women except for maybe like one head publisher, unfortunately. Like, so I figured out all the names of the people I'm pitching to, and then I like reverse Google searched them, and then I found out I was like pitching to one specific imprint within Penguin. You know how like Penguin is a bunch of different little imprints, like on the bottom, it's like Puffin, Viking, Putnam, Classic. It's all these different little categories, the imprint, and each imprint is a specific like theory that they're running. And so I was pitching to Dial Books for Children, which is their 2 to 5 age group. So then I went right to the Barnes, and after I figured this out, who I was pitching to, I went right to the Barnes and Noble, and then I didn't look at the titles of the books. I just looked at the imprints. And then I pulled out all the Dial books for kids, and it was like a stack this big, and I just sat at the Barnes and Noble and just read all of them. And they had the same formula. They used the same like plot formula for each one of their books. You know, they all had different art styles, and they all had different like takes on that same like double dip plot formula, but the plot formula was right there for me to see. So then like on my bike ride home, I just like took all the stuff I was already thinking about and just applied it through their plot formula. And that's how I came up with I like submitted that to them the next day, and then they sent the first contract the following day. So that's how I got into the industry, is I just like copied what they were already doing.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt again. I just wanted to know what was different in your pitch, in your 3 pitches versus what she saw at the craft market. What do you think was different?
What do you mean?
The
craft market, there was no stories or words, or anything.
Right. So you when
I was pitching the first. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you decided to take like 3 characters that you had or something like that and develop a story around them.
Yeah. I would pull these characters out and try to run with a story based on that. I was pitching squid stuff. Yeah, definitely. Just in the wrong way for the wrong age group. So let's go through that one real quick. So yeah, I was doing that. These are some roughs. So this is how I made the artwork. I would paint the background, and then I would cut out construction paper and glue that right on the paper. Then I would take plexiglass and put that down on top of that and draw the black lines on top of the plexiglass. So it was like kind of like 3 layers. It was kind of like an animation cell, which like looked really good for like an underwater vibe. So that's why this book looks cool. And then this is the worksheet that my editor gave me to say, you know, fit your ideas into this format. You know, this is the format. And then, so yeah, this is the book. It's been translated a lot of times. This is in Korean, but I'm just going to read it to you real quick. So it's like, I'm a giant squid and I'm big. I'm bigger than these shrimp. I'm bigger than these clams. I'm bigger than this crab. Ouch. I'm bigger than this jellyfish. I'm bigger than these I'm bigger than these turtles. I'm even bigger than that octopus down there. I'm bigger than this shark. I'm bigger than this fish, and even this fish. I'm the biggest thing in the ocean. Oh no. No. And he's sad, but then he looks around and he says, I'm the biggest thing in this whale. And that's the joke. But then I'm able to tell kids, everything I've ever written or drawn comes from a book that I read, and then I show them this. This is from Maurice Sendak, and I tell them, I say, like, can you see some similarities between this and my squid book that I just showed you? And they all say, yeah. And I say, well, that's why I'm saying that everything I've ever written or drawn comes from a book that I read, and that's a formula that you can tweak and use yourself. And then they all like, oh, really? Okay. And then I show them my sketchbook. I'm a huge sketchbook proponent. I have hundreds and hundreds of these sketchbooks. Then I walk around the classroom. I walk around the classroom and I like slowly flip through these sketchbooks to just show them what, like, you know, kind of a Zelensky, like what an artist's sketchbook looks like, that it doesn't like always look like the Mona Lisa, that like it's kind of like weird and crazy sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't look great, but like but they're really just, you know, lots of notes. Oh, another Zelensky. I guess I was really really feeling that. But I show my sketchbook and I say, like, you know, everybody in this class, everybody in this room right now is going to have amazing ideas. Some of you are going to have $1 million ideas. But if you're anything like me, the ideas pop into my head and then they pop back out of my head because I have a short attention span. Okay, that's why I need a sketchbook. Capture all your ideas in there so you always know where your inspiration is. And you can draw anything you want in your sketchbook, including stuff that looks like this. And then all the kids go, oh my God, what's that? Ew, whoa, what's that? And I say, well, guess what? I'm a writer. Time to write a story. This one's called The Island. Once there was an island. He was all alone. A plane came out of the sky and splashed into the ocean. A cat washed up on the shore of the island. In the beginning, the cat was confused and the island was shy. But over time, they grew to know each other. The cat would use the island's branches to fish in the ocean. The island did its best to grow as many coconuts as it could for the cat to eat. And the cat would use the coconut shells to capture the rainwater. And the cat would dance and sing to the island and the moon, and the island loved it. But one day, a boat came and the cat left. The island was alone and lonely. Until one day, the cat returned to the island with another cat. They fished and ate and sang and danced. Creatures would visit the island all the time to eat and sing and dance, and the island was never alone or lonely. And I say, I wrote this whole book, I typed it all up, I drew all the pictures, I got out my watercolors, I painted the whole thing. I was very proud of it. It took me a long time, very proud of it. I thought my boss would love it, so I brought it up to New York City and I showed it to my boss, and she said, I don't think we like this one. And of course, I was so disappointed. And but she said, hold on. She said, wait a minute. She said, we like the story, okay? We like the plot that you have here, but we do have one big problem with this book. And she said, the problem is this creature. They said, Kevin, we know you like creepy, weird stuff, but you've just gone too far with this one, man. You got 4 eyeballs over here. You got the mouth of a human being for some reason. You got too many tentacles at the bottom. They said, like, no one knows what this thing is. People are not going to relate to this thing. But they said, hold on. I use this as an opportunity to teach kids. I tell them that my editor said, wait. She said, hold on. She said, let's take this, instead of throwing this whole idea away because like one part isn't working, let's take this opportunity to compromise, collaborate, cooperate, brainstorm. Can we possibly think of maybe another animal that if it was big enough, it could like kind of be like an island? So I show the kids that, I think I have it right here. Don't throw the whole thing away because one part isn't working. I went back and I redrew the whole story starring a turtle. And remember, I told the kids before, I love Ninja Turtles. I'm obsessed with turtles. There's turtles in my squid book. So guess what? This version turned out way cuter. And in the end, so much better. So because we did not give up on an idea, because we chose to rewrite it, here's my book, Turtle Island. and then we'll just read through this. I'm a giant turtle, and I'm as big as an island, but not as nearly as big as the whole ocean, and sometimes I get lonely. Until one day, they were shipwrecked, which was bad, but I could fish, which was good. And you know what? Owl could knit, bear could build, frog could cook, and cat could draw. We all worked together. Suddenly, things were happening. And the ocean didn't seem so big anymore. Until one day, ribbit, we have to go home, Frog said. We miss our families. But, I didn't understand, said Turtle Island. Wasn't I their home now? So, Bear built a raft, Owl knit a sail, Frog packed some food, and Cat gave me a hug. And they sailed away. I couldn't stop thinking about my friends. I tried to stay busy, but things just weren't the same. I thought I'd be alone forever, until one day I saw a ship. And who was in it? My very best friends, and they had brought something very special with them. They brought all their friends and their family too. And this is how Turtle Island started, and how we continue to grow. The end. Okay, so that's Turtle Island. So that's how I show kids that you need to rewrite stuff. And guess what? When you rewrite it, it gets better and better. So unfortunately, Turtle Island is out of print now because like indigenous people call North America Turtle Island. So they were just like, we can't do this. And I get it. But you can see how I didn't come at it with a colonist point of view. You see how it was actually a weird alien squid that got turned into a turtle. I wish I made it Crocodile Island or something else, but things happen. So Turtle Island is now out of print. I'm not sore about it. We have like 20 minutes. I'll do one more book. I'll do like the journey of one more book, and then you can ask some questions. Is that okay? Okay, cool. I'll talk about the Yeti. Okay, yes. Let's do the Yeti real quick. Oh, and then I don't tell this to every school, but I'll say this to this. I worked as a line cook for 14 years, from the age of 18 to the age of 32, full time. And I really love cooking. I love being a line cook. I really do love that. But I found that if anybody else is out there trying to cook and be an artist, I could not do it with the 4 to close shift. Like the cooking for the dinner shift, that I never would have been an artist if I stayed cooking dinner. So I loved cooking dinner because that's like the coolest meal to cook, but I couldn't be an artist because after you get off work at 10 or 11 or 12, you go home, you stay up till 2 a.m., then you sleep till 10 or 11, and then you're like, oh, I got to go to work in 2 hours. You know, your day's ruined. That is not a lifestyle if you don't want to be a chef. So what I did is I changed myself and I started applying for jobs that were breakfast gigs. So I would get there at like 5:45 or 6 a.m. or 6:15, and then I worked till 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then that way I could get a shower, get a meal, get another cup of coffee, and be at my desk at like 3 or 4. And then I could have a whole shift of art. And I used to love that. Then the 4 to close shift was my shift. And that's how I got this next book written. I was still like working in restaurants when I had all these picture books come out. I wasn't able to like stop working in restaurants until Yeti Files came out. And when Yeti Files came out, I started getting enough school visits that I could replace cooking with my school visits. So let's talk about Yeti Files. But that's how I did it. That's how I got out of the kitchen, is I just started cooking breakfast.
By the way, I love your watercolor backgrounds.
Oh, thank you. Well, this one's black and white, but I do love watercolors. Okay, so I wanted to do a book about this Yeti. Obviously, everybody loves this Yeti. So I don't know why, but I really thought Yeti's names needed to rhyme. And then somebody already owned Freddie the Yeti, and someone already owned Eddie the Yeti. So I picked Betty the Yeti. So Betty the Yeti became the moniker of this whole pitch for years. So here's the first pitch. it was supposed to be like kind of like Arnold Lobel, like Mouse Tales, kind of like Frog and Toad Are Friends, kind of like not a chapter book, but not necessarily a picture book, like one that's like has little shorter stories inside, you know, like Frog and Toad Are Friends, that fit into an overall vibe, I would say, of a book. So that was what Betty the Yeti was going to be. So here, I'm not going to do all the voices. I've been doing voices all week. I'm not going to do all the voices, but here's Betty making cookies. Basically, she makes cookies. They're so good, she eats them all. Now she has nothing to give Bunny. Oops, I should have made a carrot cake. I hate carrots. Okay, so then that's the first joke. And then what's the next one? What is a snowball fight? So she gathers all her friends, she goes outside, they start pelting her with snowballs, and you can make the funny sound, piff, piff, starts pelting them with snowballs. That's fun. So she says, I'm getting creamed, I'm gonna find the perfect snowball. She finds one, but she trips, she falls into it, it forms a giant rolling ball of snow, crashes into her friends. She found the perfect snowball. Then they go to a cafe, she eats everything on the menu. That's a really awkward story, very bad writing. Then they go fishing, but they can't catch any fish, so Betty just breaks a giant hole in the ice. And of course, after she does that, also no fish come. But they said, wow, thanks for teaching us how to fish, Betty. And then they go sledding. This one rhymes. Betty and her friends want to have some fun. Let's go sledding, said everyone. Mouse uses a leaf that he saved from the spring, but Betty had no sled to go sledding. Sammy Seal was right there. I'll show you what to do. She slid down the hill on her belly. Woohoo! Betty smiled wide and said, hey, everyone, watch me. So she slid down the hill on her belly. Whoopee! And then, of course, Bunny, or, Yeti ate the cookies she was going to give Bunny. But the bunny had a great day with her best friends, which is the best present anyone could have given her. And then when she's walking home, she said, I will make that carrot cake. Not because I hate carrots, but because Bunny loves carrots. Okay, so that's the end. I bring this up to them and they say, I show this to, I'm working for Penguin. I'm still working for Penguin when I'm doing this. And I'm trying, where I did like, biggest artist in the ocean and best artist in the ocean, I'm still working for them. So I'm showing this to them. They saw this version. They said, no, we don't like it. And then I said, you know what? I don't think I drew it well enough. So I went back, and if I draw it better, they'll understand. So I went back and I drew it this way, and I thought I designed it a little better. So I took it back up to them and I said, it's supposed to be like Mouse Tails. It's supposed to be like Frog and Toad. So I showed this to them and they said, Kevin, what is this? It's this exact same thing you just showed us. We don't want this. And then I said, you know what? You're just not getting it. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to make it like Mouse Tails. I'm not going to make it like Frog and Toad. I'm going to strip all the unnecessary words away and make it like Biggest Thing in the Ocean, make it like Turtle Island, make it a picture book. Adapt. Don't give up. Adapt. Keep it adapting. If you think an idea is going to work, keep working it. Okay. So I changed it into this, a picture book. So here we go. These cookies are for Bunny's birthday, but I should try one to make sure they taste good. Oh no, I ate them all. No cookies for Bunny. So see what I'm doing? Like, I'm taking out big piece of action. I'm letting the person fill that into themselves, just like how good picture books do. And they said, next time, I'll make a carrot cake. I hate carrots. And then so it just looks better. But can you also see how, like, it's starting to look good? It did not look good in the beginning because that was the first time I drew it. Then I drew it again. It looked a little better. Now I drew it again. It's looking even better. I'm starting to, like, actually see this pose. Like, this is what it actually is looking like. This is what it should look like. Yeah. So, and then I'm taking out big chunks of words. I'm letting the illustrations speak for themselves. Obviously this one looks way cooler. This one looks way better. So break the ice. Fishy, fishy, fishy. Wow. Thanks for teaching me to fish, Betty. You know, just this kind of thing. Bunny, I'm really sorry I have nothing to give you on your birthday. You gave me the most wonderful present of all. I spent a great day with my very best friends. I will make that carrot. You see, the Yeti's looking a lot better. But I took this to Penguin and they said, Kevin, we do not want this, okay? And then so, oh my gosh. So but listen, I'm not willing to give up yet. So there was a internal call for illustrators from Scholastic to illustrate a boys book. Whatever their data was, is that like boys of that age in third grade are not reading, girls are reading, they're doing okay. Boys of third grade not reading, can we get samples of a third grade boys book? So I said, what if I adapt this to a third grade boys book? Take away Betty, give it a cool name like Blizz Richards, and then I'm obsessed with The Office, the television show. So I gave the Yeti Michael Scott's personality combined with a little bit of Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. So I combined those two characters, and that's how it's okay to rethink your ideas. So I did. I remade this into like a longer kind of like Office. Like it's very much like The Office. I'm obsessed with The Office. The first Yeti Files book is very much The Office. And then I changed it from Betty the Yeti to the Cryptozoology Files, but they thought that sounded too nonfiction, so they changed it to the Yeti Files. And then there it was, like basically all like the first, this is, the first one I sent in, and they're obviously making changes to it. You can see the markups they're doing, but a lot of it stayed exactly the same as this. Like, this is what I showed them, and this is what's actually in the book. And then, yeah, it became this. And then there are 3 of those books. And then I actually did 8 graphic novels with Scholastic. And I got a book coming out with Andrews McMeel next year. Yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Kevin, that's awesome, dude. Thank you so much for I really appreciate all the insight into how it is being an illustrator. And I'm so glad I went the painting route, because that is a lot of work. And I have
okay with failure, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's always been the thing with, they do kind of hammer in art school for sure, is that you have to have thick skin, because it's hard to hear this isn't good enough, or we don't want, or that 6-month period, and it's similar for artists who are applying to galleries as it is for an illustrator applying to publisher. Yeah. But like, what are when you look at people like Maurice Sendak, and Roald Dahl, and you have these kind of brilliant minds, like how did they navigate, and how do you compare your journey to something like that, where they have really strange ideas and somehow they kind of found the right person? Is it just kind of like serendipity that the right person sees the art at the right time, or do you think a lot of it is just always adapting to the person? I feel like people like Sendak never had to adapt. It felt very him. You know what I mean?
Well, he wasn't doing that stuff that you think is Maurice Sendak-y until later on his career.
Okay.
It was very like normal, like leading up to that. He didn't get to be himself for a long time. He like did play the game.
And I guess the follow-up question was like, is there a version of Kevin that you would want to illustrate when you get to a point where you have full control over what you want to do, or is this collaboration fit and work for you?
I love having an editor. And like, as a writer, as an illustrator, I need an editor. They're like the connection to how to sell this book and like what is necessary. I don't know if I would want a fully just from my dome book. Like I love the process of sculpting it into something better. The collaboratory process, especially with writing, especially with putting such like a complex book together, is so necessary for me. I've never thought I just want to do whatever I want. Right. No, I want to be part of a unit that's successful.
Well, I mean, you're an incredible illustrator and writer. Like, I think you have kind of this magical ability to do both really well. I've read all your books, to be honest. So mostly because I have, young kids and young boys and so forth. But, for me, like that idea of collaboration is scary. I like having full control over things. But do you ever thought about working with a writer?
I make things in my life in order to have full control of them. When I puppet, nobody's telling me what to make or do. When I play my music, or like, there's certain things in my life where I do have full control, but like the things that are really important, I want to be a collaboration, like, I really do. And I think they're really better for it in the end, 100%. I think if I had gotten my first impulse, every first impulse would have been wrong. There are people more wise than me. There are people who are better at their jobs than me. Like, one time when I was going through 29 rewrites with one of my editors, I said, like, is this normal? Like, does it take this long? I was getting desperate and so so exasperated with how many edits we were making. And she said to me, matter of factly, she said, "You're an artist. You're a writer. Like, your job is to create the matter, and my job is to edit." She was essentially saying, like, I get paid more than you to edit the stuff that you do. So let's do our jobs. And that, I was young, and that really went into my mind. And I said, if you want books on the shelf, you're going to do this process. If you want to self-publish and not make any money, then do it your own way. So I chose to be published and be edited, and I'll always choose that.
Was that a hard transition to do? Like, to just accept that?
I don't know. Not for me. I want a job in the industry. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get by. I think it's also survival in a way. Can we ask Barbara's question?
Oh, thank you very much. It's a little bit of a speech. I loved your presentation. I love children's books.
Oh, cool.
And
yeah.
you mentioned where my favorites are Where the Wild Things Are and the Calvin and Hobbes. Unfortunately, this is the first time I know about you, and I'm certainly going to look up your books. My grandkids are now teenagers, so it's a little bit late. I feel sorry that I didn't know about you at the time, but I've done one-on-one reading helping with kids. And I'm also working with an Afghan refugee, a young man who has several young kids at home. And it's conversation. He has a pretty good grasp of English, and using illustrated books with Where the Wild Things Are, it just triggered all kinds of response from him.
Yeah.
And it's a conversational stimulant, basically. So I just want to tell you about that as an avenue of working with people who are working on their English. When you pick not much text and incredible illustrations, it just triggers a whole new universe. So that's my speech, but I totally enjoyed your talk, and I'm going to look for your books in the library.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
so much. And I admire your persistence and your trajectory. It was fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was cool. This school district I was just in, Webster, New York, like each school had 6 or 7 or 8 refugees from Ukraine.
Yes.
And they were all doing really well. Like, we have these little things where I'll have like lunch with like 10 of the kids from the 5th grade. And this one little Ukrainian boy had a little binder and had all his drawings he wanted to show me. And he'd only been there since last year, but he was already doing pretty well societally. And the way he was doing it was by drawing well. And, kind of like that was his in. And I told him, like, hey, all the kids in my class in elementary school, like, I was a shy kid. So like they would say, can you draw Bart Simpson? And that's how I got in too. So that's what he was doing too. So that was cool to see. I saw that yesterday.
I just want to say, with Taki, who is from Afghanistan, who I work with every Saturday or whenever he can show up because he's very busy. My goal is to get him very familiar with a children's book like Where the Wild Things Are or Little Bear, things like that, and then have him so comfortable with it that he can read it to his children. And I give him the book. So that's the end of my little idea. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's beautiful, Barbara. And Kevin.
That's nice.
Anyone else have any questions? Mariana, go ahead.
I do. Hi, Kevin, this was fascinating. I see that you're an artist and you're in the publishing world, and that's what you want to bridge, kind of your art into publication, which is fantastic. And I really appreciate your persistence, like Barbara said. I want to ask you, do you do art for yourself or illustration for yourself?
Yeah. A lot of my paintings are for myself. And then like poster. Yeah. I have a lot of avenues. Yeah, I like I have all these paintings on the wall. I make all these little paintings for myself. That's a self-portrait. And these, and I do like these show posters. I do these like rock posters, and hardly anybody edits me with these except for Dan. Yeah, and then like the paintings I hardly ever show. Like the paintings are just for me. Here's a cool painting of this is a painting of a lion eating a guy in the. But yeah, I make sure, like, yeah, I'm heavily edited in my main job. So I create all these things in my life where there's no one editing me. So so I don't get sore about my main job.
Do your school visits inspire other art or more art or understanding how to reach the kids?
Yeah, the school visits, they give me they I don't know if I've ever gotten a direct idea for a book from a school visit, but I really do, you know, seeing the kids and being in contact with them. It gives me the vibe. It gives me like I can see where they're at. I see where their humor's at and their mind is at. So yeah, it's better. It's better than not.
And I have more questions. I'm sorry. This is so fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued by the fact that you said Scholastic noted that boys weren't reading as much and sort of called to artists to do that. Are you finding that you think about a male or a female child relating to your work when you're doing it? Or do you have a tendency?
I mean, that's true. Just naturally, I write from my point of view. So like my adventure graphic novels are like boy centric. They are. And I did get comments from it. So when I did the Squidding Around series, this one, like these books, I'm really proud of these books because this is when Scholastic said you have to, like, no more adventure books. Like you have to set your books in a school. So that's what these Squidding Around books that I made are. They're little like 120-page graphic novels of all these like little cute and creepy characters, but like in schools having like interpersonal problems that kids actually have. So
that's fabulous.
Whereas like my raccoon book and the Yeti books are just like me wildly explaining a fun adventure, and then there might be a little lesson here or there. These are like I've had lessons in mind, and I have more of a, you know, a wholesome kind of centered view of, like, you know, including all the genders in these books and variety. So I didn't think about that for a long time, but recently I've been thinking about that. So yeah, that's a good question.
Lastly, maybe the mental health issues that are so prevalent today, and you kind of addressed it by Zelensky portraits. I could see that it was going through your mind. And has anyone, Scholastic perhaps, asked for some of that to have a mental health kind of issue teased out through a squid? Or
no, they did. There was recently I did a Scholastic call for, they were doing a middle grade boys, they wanted a real life story that happened to you in middle school that was to do with mental health or one of the following issues. I submitted something, but they didn't accept it. And so I know they're doing that kind of stuff. I'd love to get a book like that out one day, you know, but right now I'm trying to right now what I'm doing is I really want to get another picture book coming out. I haven't done a picture book in 9 books now. So I want to get another picture book or another run of picture books going out, because I really love reading the picture books in person. I can't really read the graphic novels in person. They're more for like a kid to devour and enjoy and come back to and notice the details and glean the lessons. But the picture books are for immediate effect. And I have 3 pitches out to the companies right now, and I've had a few bites. So we'll see if anything happens.
You explained to me what the difference between a picture book and a novel. I think I can guess, but is
Picture
there
book
less?
is like fully illustrated on every page. It's like 32 or 40 pages, so like 16 or 20 spreads. And then a graphic novel is like, you know, these are 120 pages. These have 6 little chapters. This is the young kids graphic novel. So then, like, you know, graphic novels go all the way up to adult level. And
Thank you so much.
thank you. Thanks for coming.
Do you want to have one last question?
Yes. Oh, does
Go ahead.
Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. Just found out that one of our grandkids, he's only 6, has ADHD, and a lot of his issues revolve around self-esteem, where if he doesn't get it right away, he quits.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I'm constantly looking for books through bookstores that would have to do with building more self-esteem. And once in a while you find them, but the self-esteem issue can be so deeply buried. It's more of something that the adult has to see, analyze, and then explain. And he, because he has twin sisters that are little, they don't have much time with him. So he mostly just looks at pictures. He can't figure out letters and sounds. And he just says, I hate books. I'm just going to give up, you know, and I keep saying, no. And when I'm with him, I'm constantly trying to read more to him. So anything along those lines. Having had 3 boys, I know that boys, until they get to that one age where they can click into books, then begin to devour them.
Why not comics? Why not like Bone comics?
I never thought of comics.
What?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, comics is how I mean, give them Garfield, give them
Calvin and Hobbes.
Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah,
Calvin and Hobbes, right?
Like, the Calvin and Hobbes there's a lot of like wordless Calvin and Hobbes gags right next to ones that have words. So if they're already figuring out these wordless Calvin and Hobbes gags, they're going to want to decipher the words that's happening in the next strip. So start with comics. If they're just looking at pictures right now, we don't want to give them a novel. You're not going to give them Matilda yet. But if you do, I mean, like, there are shorter, funner Roald Dahl books, like George's Marvelous Medicine, The Twits, Fantastic Music Box, like all the really thin Roald Dahl books are good transitions. But I would say the first transition would be to get him reading comics and just make sure he's having fun. Like, if he thinks he's, you know, like, that's the point. Like, I tell kids, like, when you do something for 10,000 hours, then you're an expert at it. But here's the trick, like, it's not a job. What if you're having fun for 10,000 hours? So, like, you know, if they think they're actually getting away with something by reading The Far Side, if they're getting away with something by reading a Spider-Man comic, guess what? They're still reading, aren't they? So, like, get some comics, flip through a Spider-Man comic that has some words, but also a lot of pantomime, a lot of wordless narrative, and then get them into words that way.
Okay.
It was comics for me. It was comics for me. So, and I love reading. So, like, it still can happen. He's still really young. It's still okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
My kids started with Kevin Shirley books, and then they moved to comics. I think, like, and then now my son is reading like his Dark Materials trilogy, which is like books I read. So it escalates really fast through graphic novels.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
For my kids,
good luck.
Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay.
Calvin and Hobbes is the most wonderful series because it's subversive. And I gave it to my grandkids because his parents, I thought, were rather controlling, but I couldn't say anything, right? And it's, you know, they react against authority. And I think it's the most fabulous book, Mary Louise. I just, you know, a series of, and vignettes, they're short. So
I will.
I had to
I
make.
couldn't agree with you more, Barbara. If the kid
Right.
thinks they're like getting away with something, they're going to do it way more. So that's why I'm saying, like, a little bit of creepiness is okay. A little bit of subversiveness is
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
because then the kid like is going to want to do it more.
Right.
Give them comics, give them Calvin and Hobbes, like,
Thank you so much.
cool.
I have a child with some processing disorder, processing language, and yet he used to be a great reader. And as soon as they started requiring book reviews and book essays, he quit reading. So Calvin and Hobbes was like his salvation. And I had to even make a Hobbes because Bill Watterson doesn't license his images. So I made it. We carried it on trips with us.
I love that.
Good.
This is a total personal brag, but like, so the teacher from Calvin and Hobbes, she was still teaching at Sugar Falls High School, where I went to high school when I was there. So the teacher in the comics books is the same teacher. She was a substitute teacher, but I had her multiple times, and she looks exactly like the teacher.
No way.
Yeah. So the most famous artist from my high school is obviously him, but I maybe third or fourth. I don't know. But no.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Did you read his book? Did you read the new one?
No,
No, I don't think
I'm
so.
about to order it.
I just read. I got it on the day it came out. I'll let you draw your own conclusions. I have a bit of a beef with Bill Watterson, but that would be a whole nother 45-minute presentation on why I have beef with Bill Watterson, my hero.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. It was
Thank you.
absolutely an amazing experience to see what your mind is like and how you come to a creative
Fascinating.
creation, like and collaborate. I didn't realize how much collaboration is really involved with children's book illustrations and writing. So it was really a great time. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you,
Of course.
Kevin.
Cool.
Take care.
This was fantastic. We'll have the recording in a couple of days.
Yep. And then one last thing to everyone, we have Bennett Vandalis, who is a high realism acrylic painter. He was also a protege of Ephraim Rubenstein, who is, at my mentor on the painting side department. So his paintings are absolutely phenomenal. So come back in 2 weeks on November 11th, and we'll have another awesome ACO morning.
And also, if you're so moved, do give us some donations because we're running out of money.
Yeah, we'll work on that, Mariana.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.